Right, welcome back to the program. Just in case you're joining us, this is Morning Live. My name is Martin Macharia. Now let's take a look on what's making headlines on the dailies today. And I'm having the Daily Nation newspaper this particular morning, and the Standard newspaper this particular morning, dated the 4th day of February 2026. All right, top story on the Daily Nation. There is a picture there of now the former CEO, that is the Chief Executive Officer of the IEBC, Hussein Marjan. And the title of this particular story says how IEBC boss fate was sealed. Now, the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission Chief Executive Hussein Marjan, whose 5-year contract was due to lapse in March next year, with an option for renewal, left office prematurely last night following a crisis meeting of commissioners. Now is the handling of the 2027 poll preparations behind his abrupt departure. Right, quite a a big question to ask yourself this particular morning. That's a story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Now let's take a look at that particular story on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Continues to say the move announced in an evening brings a swift end to Mr. Marjan's tenure in 399 days remaining for his contract, 1 year, 1 month, and 6 days. Now, while the commission framed the move as a positive step aimed at boosting public confidence, particularly among opposition groups, sources told the nation that the decision had been in work for some time, although the timing coincided with heightened political pressure. Now, they said it was only a matter of when the news would be announced. Appointed on March 9th of 2022, Mr. Marjan was set to serve a 5-year term ending March 9th of 2027. Insiders described period of intense activity at IEBC headquarters in Anniversary Towers, Nairobi. Meeting was reportedly held both with or without Mr. Marjan, as his role was and feature were repeatedly on the agenda. Now, central to these deliberations was procurement and public trust ahead of the 2027 general elections. Some members of the tendering committee faced scrutiny over decisions made months before the current commissioners took office. All right, that's a story exclusively on page 4 and 5 on the Daily Nation this particular morning. And the explainer on the Daily Nation says IEBC leadership shake-up at IEBC ahead, or the leadership shake-up at IEBC ahead of the 2027. Now, Hussein Marjan, IEBC CEO since March 2022, exited the commission with 999 days remaining on his 5-year contract. His departure follows weeks of mounting internal and external pressure, including opposition demands for his removal over concerns about the elections preparedness and procurement the procurement decisions. Now, Smartmatic and voting technology providers used in 2022 polls became a focal point with questions over contract extensions, fueling scrutiny. Of course, goes on and on page 5 of the Daily Nation. All right. Other stories making headlines on the Daily Nation. Developers make millions from cheated home buyers, and hundreds of Kenyans, particularly those living abroad, are paying millions of shillings to real estate developers, hoping to secure their dream homes to grow their investments, only to end up with empty tickets and protracted legal battles. That's a story on page 7 of the Daily Nation. Now listen to this other story on the Daily Nation. Now, CBK, that is the Central Bank of Kenya, reigns on lovers' parade with warning against cash bouquet. Now, a smooth stick, banknote, masking tape, and those three became a petal in a nut that can best be explained by traders who have perfected the making of cash bouquet. Now, they will tell you that the money doesn't grow on trees, but with enough skill, it can become a petal. Now, florists in Nairobi and other cities have been in the business of crafting cash bouquet until the Central Bank of Kenya rained on their parade on Monday. Now, in plain language, CBK said that the way the notes are twisted to make the petals can build bouquets is not good for the longevity and integrity of legal tender. And of course, interviews with various florists who have been delivering cash petals instead of organic flower petals, or those mixed with real petals, reveal that things may not be too rosy this Valentine's Day. Of course, speaking about things may not be too rosy this Valentine's Day, which actually will be the following Saturday. After this Saturday, this comes as a reprieve for, most men here in the country, right? That's a story on page 3 of the Daily Nation. Other stories making headlines on the Daily Nation: OCS and advocate summoned to testify in Sonko's graft trial. That's on page 3. Of course, on page 2 of the Daily Nation says court compels state to buy local rice before imports. And the High Court yesterday actually ordered the government to purchase all locally produced rice from farmers nationwide before permitting duty-free imports as a precondition for further imports. The court mandated that day mop-up of locally produced rice. The court criticized the state of excluding farmers while allowing cheaper foreign rice into the market. The government is expected to buy the rice from cooperatives, individuals, farmers, traders, and millers. The major rice-producing regions in the country are Moya, Bura, Ahero, Nyatike, Bunyala, Kuja, and Kano. Right, that's a story as well on page 2 of the Daily Nation on matters agriculture. Now, let's take a look on what's making headlines on the Standard newspaper this particular morning. And that story on the Standard newspaper is Uhuru revives Azimio. Of course, there is a picture there of the now party leader of the Azimio coalition, that is the Wiper Party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka. And of course, there is a picture there of the former head of state, that is Uhuru Kenyatta. And in a dramatic meeting, former President Uhuru Kenyatta jolted the Azimio coalition with sweeping leadership changes, aligning minority leader Junet Mohammed and elevating Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka. The move signals a re-energized coalition tightening ranks ahead of the next year's elections. Observers say the shake-up marks Uhuru's return to frontline politics, laying the groundwork for a high-stakes showdown with President William Ruto. That's a story as well on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. Of course, Uhuru appointed the Wiper Party Democratic Movement leader Kalonzo Musyoka as the party leader and removed the National Assembly Minority Leader Junet Mohammed from his position as Secretary General of the Azimio Council. Kalonzo replaces the late ODM leader Raila Odinga, while Super South Member of Parliament Karoli Omondi replaces Junet. Omondi has emerged as a fierce critic of President William Ruto's administration and will now be in charge of disseminating the Azimio's council decisions to the public and to the parliament. Now, Junet's removal spells several risks, including the possibility of losing his position as minority leader, which he holds in trust for the Azimio coalition party rather than the ODM party. Now, Secretary General of the coalition party, Junet, had been secured in office by the Azimio National Government Council, a position now at stake following his removal. Now, his repeated public outbursts against Uhuru, the coalition leader, are widely seen as having contributed to his ouster. All right? I don't know what you make of that particular, shake-up in the Azimio leadership, even as we head to 2027 general elections. All right? IEBC shake-up also as well in the leadership. Marjan pushed out of IEBC amid audit, procurement queries, and Independent Electoral Monitoring Commission, that is the IEBC Chief Executive Officer, Marjan Hussein Marjan, has resigned. This was announced after a crisis meeting with commissioners that questioned his integrity, procurement decisions, and continued stay in office. Now, the resignation also follows opposition pressure last week and a plenary decision by the electoral agency to mutually separate with Marjan, according to sources briefed On the meeting, commissioners confronted Marjan over an audit report by the Auditor General that raised governance concerns linked to procurement and employment, including payments to advocates and the handling of election technology sources, said. Right, that's a story as well on page 5 of the Standard newspaper. And of course, the CBK warning hits so not for Lovers Day. That's as well on page 3 of the Standard newspaper, where money bouquets have become a popular Valentine's gift, especially among the younger generation. Of course, that might not happen this coming Valentine's, following the warning from CBK, which says that folding of those notes puts the notes at risks of the longevity of those particular notes. All right, that's a story on page 3 of the Standard newspaper. Now, Grammys turn political as stars protest U.S. immigration policies. That's on page 2, where the 68th Grammy Awards lit up the Crypto.com arena on February 1st, delivering a night that celebrated both legendary artists and fresh creative sounds. Comedian Trevor Noah hosted the ceremony for the 6th consecutive year, bringing his trademark charm as the show spotlighted the resurgence of hip-hop and pop. Right, that's a story as well on page 2. And as well, ESCC grills Governor Otoma over 1.4 billion tender that was actually yesterday. We actually saw Governor Otoma. Actually, he was at the ESCC's office in Nairobi, where ESCC actually probed him. Right? That's on page 2 of the Standard newspaper. Up to speed with those making headlines from across the 47 counties and on the dailies today as far as news is concerned. Now we're taking a short breather here on EBN Morning Live, but when we come back, we're going to have a discussion on matters to do with education. Is the competency-based education moving too fast for the system to sustain? How is the learning or the future of learning in the country? We're going to have that particular discussion right here after this short break. Don't go too far.